How's it going? Um, we're going to be doing this week's discussion video, and this week's discussion video is on a rule made by a federal agency that you don't, or that we don't, or that you don't, that I don't agree with. Um, Today, well, let's just talk about what kind of federal agency rules are. So, federal agencies create rules, which are called regulations, that are laws passed by Congress. These rules are legally binding, and they are created under a law called the APA. And the APA is basically just giving power to Congress to delegate power down to a federal agency. The federal agency I'll be talking about is the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. And the main goal of the EPA is just to protect human health and the environment. They regulate things like air pollution, water safety, toxic chemicals, climate change, waste management. Really, anything to do with the environment and like humans' effects on the environment. So like, yeah, over pollution, trying to like mitigate climate change and things along that, and like making sure our waterways and our air are clean. The specific law from the EPA that I'll be talking about is the CAA, the Clean Air Act, and it's the primary U.S. federal law designed to control air pollution. It was made in the, I believe, 1970s, and kind of to combat climate change and the shrinking of the ozone layer. This act was made, and honestly, just to keep our air fresh and not polluted with toxic chemicals. The Clean Air Act itself isn't there's nothing really wrong with it. It was made with good intentions, but there's a lot of exemptions to this rule and this law that allow companies to kind of bypass, safe operating procedures that would be, expected out of a Clean Air Act. And these exemptions are kind of, well, one of the exemptions is the startup, shutdown, and malfunction exemptions, and this allows companies to exceed the pollution limits during startup and shutdowns of their factory. So if a company or a factory was turning on and off, they could produce more pollution versus just a normal span of running, a normal time. Or when equipment malfunctions, they're also allowed to exceed the pollution limits. So if something had broken on the in the plant or in the factory, they wouldn't need to shut down the factory completely and refix it. They'd be allowed to continue doing, even if like that malfunction was producing more greenhouse gases, more pollution than would be usually mandated by the CAA. Exemptions like these give loopholes to companies to not really to not have to abide by the Clean Air Act and follow pollution limits, and allows them to pollute the air, which is it's going against what the Clean Air Act's all about. And it kind of shows that how like federal agencies work with major companies to make these loopholes, and it's really wrong that they're able to do this. Like you'd expect that this law is passed to benefit the welfare of the society, and that this would be like, okay, companies should have to work around this law to make their factories the most efficient factories to live up to that law. But it goes backwards now that, okay, so the law is made, but like let's see how we can get around it, and it's a little messed up. If I was going to fix this, I would revise the Clean Air Act and then kind of get rid of all these exemptions and make it more strict, that like, hey, this is the standard. If your company doesn't meet into that standard, your company's not going to run. And I think it would be, this is just one example, but a lot of these bills and laws that are passed that kind of limit company powers get these exemptions. We were talking about in class with the FDA, with allowing like certain amount of like bug parts in your coffee, which is you probably unavoidable, but like still like it just kind of like raises the question: what else are they doing? You know, what other loopholes or trickery are they using to bypass a law that's put in place for the welfare of the public? Yeah, so I would, if I was going to change it, I would like to see them just be as strict as possible with that law,